Okay, so some of you guys have been on the channel for quite a while and you've seen all kinds of different things using Python and Microsoft Access and doing data science and all kinds of other cool stuff. And some of you guys are wondering, how do I get started on a career in data? And that's what today's episode is about. This is for all of you guys who are like, how do I get started? What do I do? What are the steps I need to do in order to get started for a career in data? Now, I'm not going to do a big self-assessment for you guys. I think if you're here and you've been on the channel, you probably are pretty interested in data. If you really like organizing things and making connections between data, and if you're very interested in data, then of course a career in data follows, and that would be something that you'd be very interested in. Now, obviously, if you're here and you really want to work with some data, you're going to need a computer. Now, not everybody has $6,000 to plop down on a nice computer that's good for doing, data engineering and data science. But you might be surprised at what you really need in order to do data and to have a career in data and to understand how to practice and to use the techniques in data engineering and data science. You might be surprised that you can get away with much lower specs, and so for those of you who are on a budget, we can certainly help you with that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if many of you have computers that are far better than the ones that I use, since I have a tendency to keep computers long after their expiry date, since they still do the job that I need them to do, and I love to upgrade and tinker with things. It's something that I can't help myself. I have to do it. Get yourself a Windows computer. Now, you may be coming from the Mac or Linux world, which is totally fine. Those are great computers to do data stuff with. However, you will need to eventually start using remote desktops, and one of the things that you'll need to do is to make sure that you have a Windows desktop so that you can do the things that happen in Windows environments, since the majority of business does run on Windows. Now, I'm not talking about, back-end server systems and all those kinds of things, which are heavily dominated by Unix and Linux and things like that. I'm actually talking about in the people world, where business people are talking to each other and sharing data and using dashboards and creating all kinds of visualizations and those kinds of things. And that's what we're going to be using our Windows computer for a lot of the tasks. Now, a lot of the stuff that you will be learning, you can actually just do on your Mac or Linux computer, since it'll be Python based and you will be using SQLite and things like that. However, in many situations, you will need to use Microsoft Access databases, and unless you have like a VMware or a remote desktop copy of Windows running, you're not going to be able to use all the functions in Microsoft Access. Now, I highly recommend that you get a computer or install in your computer a graphics card that can do data science type calculations, and so that would be a little bit further down the road, but the sooner that you get that card in your computer, the better. And the lowest card that I would recommend for doing this kind of stuff would be an NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti, and that will be, I think, is about a couple $100 right now at the time of this video. And that's going to give you the ability to use a bunch of fancy stuff with TensorFlow and things like that are going to make your calculations go faster, since they will run on your video card and not on your CPU. The next thing that you're going to need to add into your computer will be software. And this is pretty straightforward. For most of the stuff that we do here, you'll definitely need to get Office 365 or Office Professional with Microsoft Access included, and that's going to be very, very handy for learning how to do create and use databases and to do queries and things like that without having to install a server database. You can use a file database, which is much simpler setup and allows you to get into the world of relational database management systems, and which is really awesome. And Access is going to help you to understand a lot of the basic concepts that you need to know in order to work in the data sphere. Then I would definitely make sure that you go to python.org and download the version of Python that you need for your computer. I would recommend, at least at this time, to use Python 3.1.0 or 3.10, and that is going to get you into the Python world so that you can start learning. And Python is really awesome, and you're gonna get to know how to use the idle shell and all of those other kinds of goodies in there. Also check out Jupyter Notebooks, that's Jupyter with a Y, and where you can do some Python coding, and it's very handy so that you can run commands and you can sort of work into a program without having to rerun it the whole time, like every time that you use it. Python with Jupyter Notebooks is very effective, and I would definitely make sure you install that. And of course, what comes with Python for databases, but SQLite, which is built in, and make sure that you check out how to get in and create your own databases. SQLite is a full relational database management system, which is also a file-based database system, which does not require you to install a server. So you can get started very quickly. You can have a database on there and start learning how to do queries, not just basic queries, but you can do very complex stuff off of your SQLite database, which is built in and packaged with Python. Get Notepad++ on your computer, or Visual Studio Code if you prefer the Visual Studio world. Personally, I like having some different technologies on my computer, so I use Notepad++ all the time. It's very handy, especially when you need to script something that's in a language that you have to use and you're not quite familiar with it, and you don't want to install a whole bunch of stuff on your computer. Notepad++ is awesome for that, and you can do all kinds of scripting using that tool. Make sure you install 7-zip on your computer. 7-zip is also free, and it is great for working with those zip files and just all kinds of different compression, and it makes it very handy since the tools are in your right-click menus, and it makes it very easy to unpack and pack things and combine things and all kinds of things like that, which you need to do as a developer. Now, I highly recommend that if you have the means to do so, to get Visual Studio Professional for yourself. If not, get Visual Studio Community, and that is almost the same thing, and that will help you definitely to get into the Microsoft world if you want to use C# later on, or Visual Basic to create all kinds of interfaces and web front ends and all kinds of stuff like that, and also to start working with the Azure world, which is out in the cloud, and you'll be doing tons of that stuff as you have a career in data. Make sure to get Power BI. Power BI is a fantastic tool for visualization and analysis and things like that, and that's where you really bring your data to life for your end users to show them patterns and all kinds of things like that. Power BI is definitely a tool which is a great tool for your toolkit, and if you learn how to make visualizations using Power BI, that is a fantastic way to go. So after you get all of that stuff installed on your computer, sort of like, then what, and what you're going to do after that is you're going to get in there and you're going to go ahead and get the databases that you need to start doing some basic analysis and sort of see how things work in the relational database world. For Microsoft Access, you can easily get a copy of the Northwind database, which is a good one, or AdventureWorks is another one that is a good one for practicing on. And in the SQLite world, the Chinook database is an excellent database that you can get for free, and you can go in and you can start doing all kinds of queries against it. It's a music library that is normalized, and so you can do queries and sort of start to understand how joins work and how data is stored in normalized databases. And I would highly encourage you at that point, once you've got things installed and you've put some sample data on your computer, that is the point where you can start to read about database normalization. Start learning SQL. That's going to be one of your biggest tools in the data world, is SQL. And make sure that you get in there and learn how to make your own queries and how to make your own databases. And that will be one of the things that you'll do next after you sort of learn how a database is put together, learn some database theory, and at that point you can create your own database and see how that works. And you'll probably end up creating a bunch of databases that the first ones will be terrible, and you'll get better as you practice. For example, what if you were going to make a simple reservation system for something, for widgets or whatever, where people could come and check them in and check them out and all kinds of things like that, and reserve them and then pick them up? How would you design that database? Go for it, give it a try, and see how well you can do it. Now, believe it or not, the level of success that you will get in your data career will be strongly tied to how well you can query data effectively and make sense of data that come from all different kinds of sources, and also dirty data that needs to be cleaned or needs to be reformatted or transformed and all kinds of other things. But the main tool that you will use for a lot of that will be SQL, and the level of SQL that you have, the more practice that you do now, will make a huge difference to how well you will proceed in your career later on. Make sure to check out the links below, as I'll be posting some exercises that you can try on the Northwind and Chinook databases. Now, once you've got all of that stuff going on your computer and you are creating some queries and you're starting to make sense of things and how things work in relational database management systems, you will definitely want to start looking at the cloud. And of course, by that I mean Microsoft Azure and Amazon. They both have sort of like online cloud technologies that you will definitely want to master as time goes on. Now, for Azure, you can definitely, I know you can go and you can get yourself a free account, and there's some things that you can create with your account, and I think you can create one database or something like that. I will put a link down below for those of you who want to check that out. And I think you can do the same thing on Amazon. But definitely as time goes on, you will learn how to create your databases in the cloud as opposed to on your local computer, and you'll be using those databases in the cloud with many other people, maybe through interfaces that you design, whether you're using Power Apps or whatever, or other kinds of interfaces and front ends and web applications, or Microsoft Access databases with ODBC links into the cloud, or Dataverse, or all those kinds of things. And so once you're fully operational, you'll definitely be writing some Python, you'll be using SQL, and you'll be writing some VBA, which can help you to understand programming and how to create user interfaces and databases, multi-user databases for all kinds of different purposes. So you could definitely check out some Python resources that I've posted links for below. One great one is learnpython.org. Start using Microsoft Access to build your first databases with user forms for data entry. Find out how to create your first SQLite databases using Python, and make some queries on your databases and pull that data into Power BI so that you can do a visualization. And as you go, you'll figure out how to put your data into the cloud as well, and also to put your visualizations into the cloud by publishing your visualizations into the cloud for other people to consume. But the biggest takeaway for you guys today is practice. Definitely you will want to practice in order to refine your skills so that you can tackle any situation. And the more that you practice, the higher level that you will attain in your career. And definitely the more you do, the better you'll become at it. Now, as you go, make sure to check out, what companies hire and what kind of roles you can see for data roles, and start to familiarize yourself with the kinds of expectations that people have around data roles. And definitely understand that there's a wide range of data roles in businesses around the world. In North America, here we have all kinds of different data roles, and I've outlined some of those in this video up above here, and definitely make sure to check that out, but definitely realize that there are big data roles, there are relational database management roles, there are embedded data roles, so there's all kinds of different data roles. And so you might want to start thinking about what kind of industries that you want to work in, and what kind of industries do you already know. Like maybe you already are familiar with car manufacturing or something, and you want to get into data. Well, if you know a lot about car manufacturing and then you suddenly start knowing how to do data stuff, well, you'll be very, very useful because you'll have that domain knowledge. So make sure you do a self-assessment about those things, and make sure to check out what's available and what people are looking for. So as you guys can see, my approach on this is not to recommend a whole bunch of schools or courses or anything like that. Definitely you want to do learning by doing in the data world, and definitely as you have questions in your mind, you'll make queries and look on Stack Overflow and Google this and Google that, and you'll learn a whole bunch of stuff as you go. And that's really the best way to learn things, because you will definitely learn it better if you're applying it at the same time. So go out, have some fun. Don't be afraid to make mistakes on your test databases. You can blow them up and reinstall them, and it doesn't really matter. And definitely that is the best way to do it. Make sure to ask for exercises, or if you are at work, try to look for ways that you can use your databases to make your workplace better and to make things more efficient, so that you can hone your skills and become a better data practitioner. Now, if you guys like what you saw today, please make sure to smash that like button, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet. I've got all kinds of cool videos on all kinds of different topics using Python and Microsoft Access and Java and some others. And make sure that you introduce yourself in the comments below. It would be really cool to hear from some of you if you are just starting in data today. And also, if you're interested in further, more advanced and other kinds of articles and things like that on these topics, make sure to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description below. Good luck, and make sure to check out the comments, as I'll be posting some challenges for you guys for queries on the Northwind and the Chinook databases. Let's see how good you are. Or if you're not that good, let's see if you can learn it.